Hey YouTube, what's going on? It's Jax here back with another video. We're going to be hopping straight into the live 12 win classic challenge. Hopefully we're 11-2. Had a few rough matchups and I accidentally lost while trying to get crowns for the pass, but it's alright. We should be able to get the win here with P.E.K.K.A. Bird Spam. This is my personal favorite P.E.K.K.A. Bird Spam variant for classic challenges. I like the Dark Prince over the Ghost because of the better splash capability. It's got a faster attack speed and more consistent splash damage. So he's got Bats, Skeletons, and E-Spirit. Quick cycle deck coming in from him. Looks like it's going to be RG. So when they Fisherman low like that, is a good idea to P.E.K.K.A. the bridge, especially if you have a Bandit already cycled, because now this Bandit is going to be able to take out the Fisherman. And this P.E.K.K.A. hit the tower? That's crazy, but we do kill the Fisherman. That was what I was looking for. I didn't want him to get too much of a counter push. But we can just go in for a Magic Archer in the opposite lane to prevent the Hunter from getting any shots and prevent him from getting spell damage on our tower. And a pretty decent start, I would say. He might be able to Fisherman and activate King Tower, but I think, yeah, actually he's going to be able to. You want to make sure with the Fisherman that you're pulling it before the Magic Archer gets within range of the Arena Tower. So we're just going to go Dark Prince. We're going to see if he's going to Bats. Perfect. We're going to get so much E-Wiz value out of this. And then we can go Bandit to kill this Fisherman. And we have a really great counter push coming in. He's going to probably have to Fireball, but the Dark Prince has its shield. Another reason why I like the Dark Prince, and the Bandit's going to come in. We don't unfortunately stop his log. We don't unfortunately dash through his log, but we do force out a Fisherman. And at this point, I think what I want to do is I'm just going to eat the Fisherman. And you may be calling me crazy. It's going to be a lot of damage. But if I go P.E.K.K.A. and then, or if I go Battle Ram, then I P.E.K.K.A. in front, we still have the damage lead. And I can basically kill his Hunter and then zap the Bats. And let's see if we can bait him into High Hunter. Looks like he's going to be down so much he has to wait. That's not going to be the greatest Hunter, though, for him. And he's going to have to log too. He doesn't have any more ground. I'm just going to zap this Fisherman so that we take out the Hunter. Maybe even get a P.E.K.K.A. shot. No, but it looks like we should be able to take out the Fisherman. So now we go Dark Prince. We're just going to deny this lane. That was a risky play. We didn't really get a whole lot out of it. But I'm going to go Magic Archer really high here, see if we can force out a Fireball, get some chip damage on tower, while also killing the Bats. So now since he doesn't have a Fireball, we're easily able to just go in with the E-Wiz in the back. And then I'm going to go with the Battle Ram in the center here, maybe attract the Hunter shot. It doesn't look like it. We're going to try and pull this, have the Fisherman pull the Hunter, and then Magic Archer to kill the Fisherman. Actually, we'll kill the Hunter too. I'll take that as well. I'll take that trade as well. So he's going to go in for Skeletons. We do get the Zap Down. And this is going to be decently close, I would say, actually. We get a Barb hit. We're just going to keep denying this lane from him. Because if he goes RG Fisherman, I have to wait until he Fishermans. And RG in the back against P.E.K.K.A. is not a great play, even if you do have the Fisherman. I know now what his goal is. It's to make sure that he can pull my P.E.K.K.A. So I'm not going to let that happen. I'm just going to play my Dark Prince here. That's going to go in front if I need it to. And then we're going to go Magic Archer in the middle. It should be able to align. We can actually even zap this too to keep it from hooking for even longer. And then we can go in for a Bandit. And it's actually going to do a double dash onto the, I'm trying to concentrate. Hold on. I don't want to throw this. Unfortunately, the Hunter is still alive. But we can play a zap here. Battle Ram connects. Fisherman gets retargeted. Barbs are being tanked for. We can go in for a Magic Archer. And the Barbs are on the tower. Can we get the win? Magic Archer gets one shot. It needs one more. And that's going to be GG. Ooh, kind of close. I was scared for a minute, not going to lie, but we do get the win. So the first, just going to give you a little bit of gameplay to start out with. We're going to go over the replays that got me here before this game. And then I'll give you those tips while we're going over the replay. So I'll see you then. Make sure if you enjoyed the live game and find the tips that I share later in the video useful to like, subscribe, and comment so that the YouTube algorithm recommends this to more people. I put a lot of effort into making this video for a lot of players. I've seen it asked a lot. So if you could consider doing that, it'd be really helpful for me as well as other people looking to see this. Thank you. Alright, so we're going to open up the chest and start going into the tips. The first tip I have for you is to use as many splashers as possible. I mentioned in the GC video about control decks. You want to be using a lot of control decks such as Graveyard with Bowler. Those are really good ideas because they have so much splash. And it's just going to be super easy for you to control some of the off-meta decks that you see as we scroll down a bit. You have P.E.K.K.A. Valkyrie Lightning, which is off-meta. You have E-Giant, which is off meta. I shouldn't have lost. This is basically a free matchup for me. I got greedy for the crowns though. It's all right. You've got Hog Firecracker, a good amount of P.E.K.K.A., a decent amount of P.E.K.K.A. Then you have this off meta deck. And they'll also be really good against cycle decks like bait, especially good graveyard freeze decks, or maybe even graveyard poison. I believe they have a good matchup on log bait. I'd have to ask some of my friends about that. But we'll go straight into the replays while I deliver some more tips on how you want to be using those decks, and some more tips on just the kind of cards that work well in the classic challenges, and how you want to focus like on your mentality as you go into the classic challenge. Alright, so to start off this classic challenge video, I'm going to be showing you guys the kinds of decks you want to be playing. So there are a few kind of different cards and kind of different like functions of cards that you want to be looking for when you create decks for classic challenges. As you know, classic challenges are the easier of the two when comparing to grand challenges. They cost less, so they're a lot more accessible to players that are lower in the skill rankings of ladder, or just as players that maybe don't even play ladder. So you can maybe get classic challenge 12 wins a lot easier. I'm stating the obvious. I just wanted to get that out of the way first though. So the way you want to be getting classic challenge wins is by playing control decks. And I mentioned these in my grand challenge video, but I'm going to teach you guys some really good ways to make control decks instead of just telling you what to play, and so that you can maybe have a little bit of variation, create your own kind of control decks. So to start off with, we all know most of the classic challenges have off meta as well. I believe it's similar after playing a few, including the live one that I did for you guys earlier. They're similar in kind of like the way they start off meta and then they get to more meta decks, except the players usually aren't as skilled as they are in grand challenges. But this also means you should still be prepared for off meta decks, because I know they make it to the higher 10, 11, 12 wins. Classic challenge is a lot easier. So control decks, like I mentioned earlier in the Grand Challenge video, control decks are the best way to control the off-meta decks. It's literally control in their name. So you're going to be wanting to make these kinds of decks so that you have easier control over those weird things like Skarmy, Minion Horde, E-Barbs, all those good cards that nobody likes playing against, but they're so annoying to deal with. Those are all much better handled by control decks than, say, cycle decks, where if you make a quick mistake in your placements, you could lose your whole tower, or, beatdown decks where you probably won't even be able to defend them because beatdown decks are so heavy. So, there are a few things that you want to look for when you make your own control deck. You want to have answers to the Skarmy and the Minion Horde. And that is just something that I've learned in the game. When you are not as high on ladder as like ranked trophies or where everybody's level 13, you need to have answers for Skarmy and Minion Horde. So there are two direct cards that I will mention, and then one card where used in combo is really easy to do it's really easy to kill these cards. So the first card is Zap. Obviously, perfect answer to the Skarmy. Instantaneous drop, you can hit all the skeletons if you're fast. Skarmy is not going to get much value. Second card is Arrows, and this is even better than the Zap. They may not be quite as instant, but they're a +2 trade to kill the entire Minion Horde, basically making it useless because you can't play the Minion Horde when your opponent's just going to get a free +2 trade off of it with no value. And the third card is Tornado. And Tornado, it doesn't directly counter the Minion Horde. It does well against Skarmy, but it takes time to counter the Skarmy. But used in combo with splash units, or pretty much any unit, you can easily kill all the swarms that make classic challenges so annoying. Plus, you get the King Tower activation, which allows you to have another tower to work with when you're using your defenses, and you get to manipulate the opponent's cards placements. Oh, I didn't mean to repeat the replay. But you get to manipulate the opponent's card placements, which can be really helpful if, like, say you make a quick placement mistake. You can nader everything back to the middle, the kite will work, and you'll be good to go. So those are the three small spells that I recommend using. The next thing you want to look for are splash units. And splash units could include baby dragons, skeleton dragons, not really so much the wizard. I don't really think the wizard is a great splash unit. He's so heavy, and he either gets a lot of value, he gets almost no value. He's a dead card in your deck. I prefer the ice wizard instead of the wizard so that you have the slowdown ability too. And again, you're noticing like a common theme. Most of these cards have a workaround towards, being able to control what your opponent is playing very easily. And that is true for the Ice Wizard. The Ice Wizard has the ability to slow down the map by slowing down each unit, and this can allow you, again, more reaction time. Everybody loves having reaction time to counter those annoying cards. The more reaction time you have, the better you'll be able to defend, and the better counter pushes and less damage you will take every time, especially with the Ice Wizard. With the Tornado combo, you can generate such huge positive elixir trades that you can go in for really big pushes after you defend. So you want to be looking for Baby Dragon, Skeleton Dragons, Ice Wizard, or other similar low-cost, high-damage splashers. I'm trying to think of a few more examples. I'm blanking on them right now. But I'll put some more on the screen as I edit. I'm going to be putting all the cards on the screen. I'll put some more as I edit. So the next thing you want to look for in your control deck are big spells. Those are spells that cost 4 elixir or more. There are 3 spells that I recommend, one of which I probably won't be recommending after next season, and I'll give you a substitute spell for that. So the first spell, Fireball. Currently the most popular spell in the game to my knowledge. It's got such good value potential. It just instantly does like almost as much damage. It does more. It kills barbs. It kills barbs in one shot. So that's about how much damage you're getting out of each fireball you play. And this is really big. This is so good because there's a lot of fireball bait in the meta, and it acts as a secondary counter to Minion Horde, or even Scar Me if you're that desperate. I would prefer the next spell to counter Scar Me if I'm desperate though. So we'll get right into that one, and that's the Poison. The Poison is really good because it has that nice area of damage, or damage over time, effect on the arena. This is really good at limiting swarms. This is also really good with its bigger radius and longer time. You can get more value over time. So let's say your opponent plays a Goblin Gang on a graveyard. If you have Fireball, you have to Fireball the Goblin Gang, and the Fireball doesn't do anything after that. But if you have the Poison is going to hold that graveyard, no swarms, for 8 seconds, allowing the skeletons to build up and go in and get all that damage you're looking for. And the final spell I have is the Earthquake. And this is why I don't recommend it in the next month or two if it gets nerfed, because it is going to get nerfed. This card is literally a win condition as a spell. 3 elixir, you can't really punish a person playing an Earthquake, but what you can do is literally just cycle Earthquakes on nothing. It still has the slowdown effect giving you value, and it's still going to be able to get more damage than Fireball and Poison for 3 elixir instead of 4. This is an incredibly solid choice to pair with Tornado decks, since you don't have Tornado doing too much damage, but you can always cycle those Earthquakes to catch up without having to worry about too much, and the Tornadoes can help you correct that elixir disadvantage you put yourself at by cycling Earthquakes. So that's going to be for like spells and splash units, and then we'll go into the next cards you want to be including, which are win conditions. Alright, so now we're going to get onto the subject of win conditions. Win conditions are usually building targeting cards that are going to be your main source of damage. They're going to be the cards you're trying to get to the tower. Examples of this include Giant, Golem, Royal Giant, Battle Ram, Ram Rider, all those cards, those kind of things. Those are win conditions. You're going to be wanting to use those to get to your opponent's tower the most. There are a few win conditions that synergize really well in control decks, including this card goes well with a lot of control decks, cycle decks, and beatdown decks, and you're going to be wanting to use a beatdown deck of this variation, which is kind of like, it doubles as kind of like a control and a beatdown kind of deck, and that is Balloon. And you'll see why, you see the deck I include Balloon with in a little bit, you'll see all the building blocks I've been laying already, and you'll be like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the reason I include the Balloon is it's the air win condition that is taking over the meta right now. It's not affected by Earthquake, which is the most popular spell. Actually, I think it might be the most popular spell. Fireball and Earthquake are really close, but Earthquake is becoming more and more popular in these challenges. So, it's really unaffected by Earthquake. It does really well with the Tornado, and it's actually pretty decent against the Tornado. If your opponent wants to use the Tornado to activate their King Tower with the Balloon, they have to take 1,000 damage from the drop first. And I think they take that damage. They might not. If they mess up their placement, they will take that damage though. So that's why I like the Balloon. It also does so much damage for each drop. Like, that's pretty obvious, but you have so much punish capability when your opponent messes up. You get that 1,000 damage straight to their tower. It's really good for only 5 elixir. It's a really good deal, especially with its HP. The next card you want to be using as your win condition is Graveyard. And Graveyard synergizes so well with the splashers such as Baby Dragon or Skeleton Dragons. It does really well with the Tornado, of course. And it also does really well with the big spell Poison, because you play your Graveyard and you play a Poison, and that poison is going to limit the area where they can use their cards until that graveyard is done if they want to use troops. If they use a spell like the poison of their own, you're not really a whole lot the poison's going to do about that, but at least you'll get some extra chip damage if you decide to go in for the poison. Just got to be careful about overcommitting. You don't want to do that with control decks. They're great for counter pushing, and the opponent can overcommit for you. Now, the last win condition I want to include in this list is Sparky. And Sparky's not a building targeter, but I include her as a win condition anyway because it's just such an insane card to defend that it's basically when you use it, you're trying to get it to tower, and the tanks such as Goblin Giant or Giant aren't usually what's getting a lot of damage unless you throw in a mini P.E.K.K.A with it. I consider that like one of the weirdest combos that I'm going to go over, but I really do think the Sparky is a card you want to include. It's not incredibly strong on top ladder, but it is super hard for players that don't exactly have the greatest micro skill, which is placement and timings, to defend. And it gets so much defensive value, your opponent literally has to have like a lightning or arrows, for not lightning arrows combination to kill it, for it not to get value. It's absolutely crazy. You can defend so many good pushes that would normally be undefendable with other troops using the Sparky. And I think this is just one of the best cards to include in the classic challenges. And it synergizes pretty well again with Tornado. You don't usually use it with many of the splashers, but the Sparky is a splasher herself. It's the big splasher, and so that's what you're going to want to be using when you go in for each of your pushes and defenses. So I went over 4 different card slots in your deck you want to be using with each of the units, or with each of the kind of categories of cards that I've given you. That leaves you guys 4 deck slots if you want to be creative and make your own off-meta decks to play in classic challenges. That is going to be great for you guys. Make sure you want to be using those combos though, and if you really want to find the best meta decks, if you want to be like on point with the strategies, go in the stuff that's consistently proven to work. Royale API, Stats Royale, and Deck Shop are all pretty good sources of decks. I personally like Royale API. It gives a lot more stats, but Deck Shop also has a good amount of stats on the cards themselves, and it highlights a lot of the popular combinations, and so does Stats Royale as well. So those are some websites you can use to make your own cards, and make sure, even if you're using off-meta stuff, to at least reference those websites, because you don't want to be making an insanely off-meta deck. Like, you don't want to put Sparky with a rocket. That's not really going to be the best synergy, even though you have an open spot. You want to kind of look and maybe put Sparky with the arrows. That's not normally seen a whole lot, but it is off meta and it will work. So those are the kind of suggestions I have when you create the decks. If you want to go on meta and you like are a little bit lazy to go look at the sites like I am, you can use these 3 decks that I think will work really well. You can use Lavahound Balloon, you can use Graveyard with Ice Wizard and Cage. I like the Cage because it is a DPS unit, so it pulls everything to the middle and it spawns that brawler to help out with the defense. So that deck will be right there. And then if you really want to use another deck, you can use Goblin Giant Sparky Rage. Sparky with the Rage is absolutely nasty. It's so hard to defend, and your opponents are going to just have insane amount of trouble doing it or defending it. It'll work really well against the off-meta strategies, and it's just a great deck that you want to be choosing overall. So now I'll go into how you want to play your classic challenges to make sure you're getting the most out of your gems and the most wins you can possibly get. Some strategies for taking breaks, some strategies for how you should be playing each specific game, and we'll go right into that right now. How do you want to play in your classic challenges as just a player in general? You're going to be wanting to be super passive. You have gems on the line. Trophies are really easily recoverable, but gems, they cost a bit more to get back. So you want to be making sure you're playing super passive, waiting for the perfect opportunity each time to attack, so that your opponents aren't going to be getting a bunch of counter push value against you this time and really messing up this attempt in your classic challenge. So that means you're going to be wanting to use your defensive units when Graveyard Lavahound or Goblin Giant Sparky, really defensively for the first few minutes. And I'm probably screwed up the wording a bit there, but you just need to be playing passive and waiting for your opponent to give you that chance to counter push. Because when they give you that chance to counter push, you don't have to be the one that worries about overcommits. Your opponent has probably overcommitted into you already, and you can punish them for that and just go in, and they'll probably have to spend elixir defending, and that means you're going to be in such a good spot because you don't have to worry about spending too much elixir. I mean, there are extreme cases where you do, but for the most part, if you're the second one to attack, your opponent has already made the mistake for you, and you are just capitalizing. You don't have to wait. You don't have to watch your elixir spending or anything. You just have to go in and take that tower. So what this means is when you are being passive, it just is so much better, because if you lose while being passive, you have more of a chance to say, okay, this was my mistake, I need to correct that. Keep your mindset calm. But if you're going in at the bridge, you're going to get really mad. Trust me, I know from experience on ladder, I'm a bridge spammer myself at heart. When you go in really aggressively, you're not really looking for your mistakes. You're just going in, and when they counter and punish, it's not really going to be looking good for you. You're not going to realize what you did wrong, and you're not going to be able to correct that mistake for future games. And that can be really bad, especially in a classic challenge where you need to keep your mind about you, because you only have 3 chances. If you lose 3 times, you're out of the challenge, and you wasted those 10 gems and however many wins you got. So always, always, always in classic challenge, if you have not won one yet, you want to be going in and checking your replays when you lose. This will help you improve at whatever deck you are playing, and when you improve at that deck, next time you attempt the classic challenge, you'll be getting better and better and better. So it's just a really good idea to be passive for so many reasons, and making sure that you're keeping track of your losses, making sure you're taking a break. 10-15 minutes at the minimum. I said a few hours on my GC video, you only need 10 or 15 minutes. Either watch YouTube if that's your thing, go outside, take a run, take a walk. Just do anything not related to Clash, and get your mind focused on the game when you come back without that tilted mindset that you can sometimes get. It's really important to make sure you're taking these breaks, just so that you don't keep losing. You don't want to go 1-3 or something because your opponent had Valkyrie, E-Barbs, Minion Horde, Skarmy Rage, or whatever, and you accidentally went all in, and they got quick value off of that Minion Horde, and you lost. You really want to be making sure that you're being passive, so that you know what their deck is when you go in, you know all the answers they could possibly have, and then you won't be as mad if you, for some reason, it doesn't work out. Maybe you made a mistake on your offense. You can tell what it is. Also, I'm looking at the footage right now. I'm sorry my gameplay is lagging. It appears to be catching up, though, so big apologies for that. My USB cord is not working for some reason with my mirroring, so we'll get that fixed for the next video. Just need to get my charger back. And yeah. So now, if you want to be playing the 3 meta decks I've listed earlier, Lavaloon, splashyard, or Goblin, Giant, Sparky, I'm going to be showing you a bit about how to play each deck by telling you what kind of cards you want to be using for certain interactions and how you want to be taking advantage of each of the units you have. So, Lavaloon to start off with. Your big defensive value maker are the barbs. These can kill pretty much any sort of ground push as long as they don't have a fireball, and if you manipulate their elixir to the point by playing passive and forcing them to overcommit, where they play into the barbs without an answer to them, you can get so much value out of them, and it'll free you up to go in for a big push. So you want to be saving the barbs for their biggest ground unit. So if for instance, if you're playing against P.E.K.K.A. and they have a bandit, a ghost, and a battle ram, you want to be saving the barbs for the battle ram or even the P.E.K.K.A. if you need to, and using your air units to take damage but get an elixir advantage. This is a beatdown concept, and that is why I believe Lava can double as both. You have the barbs, and you have the splashers that can help you with your controlling the off meta, and you have the cards where you can ignore the playstyle, where you can ignore and get that elixir advantage. And then once you have the elixir advantage, or if your opponent cycles any sort of air unit and you're even on elixir, you can go Lava Hound in the back, follow it up with a balloon, use your spells, and break through and take the tower. That's a general overview of how you want to play it. In classic challenges, if you haven't won your first classic challenge, you shouldn't really be trying to go Lava first play. It's just not going to work out very well. If you do it wrong, you could get punished super heavily, and that's not something you want to see. It could lead to a really big tilt on your end. So, to play Graveyard Control, this is a full-on control deck. You are never going to be going Graveyard in single, except for the craziest circumstances. Only when your opponent is down so much elixir that you're playing a card and you're fully generating the elixir back before they even play a card, maybe even another card, should you go in for a Graveyard and single elixir. This is because each Graveyard is really defendable without the correct support. If you go in just a Graveyard, let me go down and get back to the replays. If you go in with just a Graveyard and a Poison, your opponent's not going to have to spend much of anything. They can go in for a quick air counter in the back. They can poison themselves. They're not going to take much damage on your own, especially if you go Night Graveyard that's 8 elixir. They can just play a Bandit up high, Ewa's on the Graveyard, and now they have a big counter push coming at you, for example. So you're going to be wanting to wait for them to make an attack. You have such good defensive answers. You have Bomb Tower or Cage, depending on which variation you want to use. I recommend Cage personally. But you have the Cage, You have the baby dragon, you have the ice wizard, and the knight. These are all such great defensive units that are capable of getting more value than they are worth. And I'm actually going to skip through this replay. I forget. I lost because I decided to go for a crown, so it wouldn't be really showing you guys why I lost. I just decided to get greedy, and I got punished for it. So we'll go into this mirror matchup. But yeah, you want to be defending a lot. You want to be defending all the way through single, using those cards to get you the value you're looking for, and make sure when you come out, you're having 2 or 3 cards. Like if you have a knight and a baby dragon, 3/4 HP on a counter push, you can go in for a graveyard and double elixir. Your opponent's going to have a lot of trouble killing the baby dragon and the knight after spending on their offensive attack. They're going to have a lot of trouble killing those 2 units and then the graveyard. And then finally, for Goblin Giant Sparky Rage, if your opponent plays a 3 or a 4 elixir card in the back, such as Bandit, Battle Ram, especially 4 elixir and up, you Sparky same lane, you let the Sparky do its thing and kill all those units, then you're going to go Goblin Giant and Mini P.E.K.K.A. at the bridge, follow up with a Rage afterwards. And especially if you're up elixir, going Sparky in the back is a good idea, even if your opponent's not going to give you a whole lot of value. It's still a good idea, especially if you're up, so that you can start these big pushes. The Mini P.E.K.K.A. does really well if they have an E-Wiz up high, and the Musketeer is going to help you out if they have an E-Drag. She does a really good job on killing that E-Drag, and then what you can do is you can go in, protect your Sparky, and push after that E-Dragon is dead. So that's going to wrap up this video, how to win your first Classic Challenge. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought of my editing this time. This is a lot longer of an editing than I usually put in, but if you really enjoy it, I'll start trying to put it in with these kinds of longer replay talk videos. Hopefully you guys enjoyed all the stuff that I've gotten, and hopefully you can go out and win your first Classic Challenge soon. For now, signing off, this is Jax.